Alright people, it's that time again. Another edition of the Controversial Truth right here on OneManCave.com, and I'm your host, Enrique James. Some of you know me as Notty from the Two Live Stools, and they gave me that name, so that's cool too. The show is brought to you by Authority Transportation. If you gotta get it there, there's only one way to get it there, and that is with Authority. And of course, we're gonna go ahead and the big elephant is in the room, whatever you want to call it, and we're gonna touch it right now. That's Tony Stewart and his situation where he killed a 20-year-old Kevin Ward Jr. This was not a sanctioned NASCAR race. This was more of a amateur race that Tony Stewart, he loves racing. He loves racing all type of events, and I'm not gonna knock him for that. I'm not one of those guys who says just because a guy makes $20 million, he can't have a passion for the sport and he can't love the sport. But when it comes to this situation, there are so many different aspects and different alleyways you can go down to critique the situation. For one, why does a driver in NASCAR or any race car event hop out the car and step on the track when there are cars that are going 200 miles an hour around the track? You might get hit, and if you get hit a little bit by a car that's going 200 miles an hour, you might die. And that's unfortunately what happened to Kevin Ward Jr. And condolences to his family. You know, we would never wish anything of this magnitude to anybody. On Tony Stewart's end, there's no charges been charged against him because he's in the car, he's going around the track, and his car hit somebody who stepped out of their car. I mean, how can you charge a man for that? But I am kind of skeptical a little bit by looking at the tape, and I'm no a race car expert or aficionado, but I think Tony Stewart could have missed him. It's so ironic that Kevin Ward was angry at Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart is the guy who caught him with the tire and hit him. It just seems kind of fishy to me. It seems like it could have been intentional, and I really would hope that wouldn't be the case, and I hope I'm wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that that's the case, but it appears that it could be that way. But yet and still, you can't charge Tony Stewart. You know, if he did anything intentional in this case, it'll wear on him and it'll wear on his conscience, and I think that'll be enough for this situation. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only penalty that he really can face for this situation. There were other guys who faced penalties. Speaking of, for Team USA basketball, they did make a few cuts. You know, they had to get down to 16 before they get down to 12 for the FIBA World Play. And a few guys that were cut were Bradley Beal, John Wall was cut, also Paul Millsap was cut. But you saw guys like Gordon Hayward, Andre Drummond is still around, Damian Lillard is still around, Kyle Korver, the sharpshooter, is still around. So August 14th in Chicago, they'll have a training camp, and we'll dwindle that down to 12 basketball players. But you saw that John Wall, he kind of said that he didn't get a fair shake in this thing, and there's been a lot of speculation. Maybe Coach K is mad at him now, or he has a gripe with Coach K. None of that. John Wall is a young basketball superstar who's probably never been cut in his life. He's probably always been handed everything and been put in the front because of his talents, you know, deservedly so. And Coach K is an older 60-some-year-old man who's been coaching for years, and he's seen all types of basketball players. He had to make a coaching decision for Team USA. I'm pretty sure he understands that John Wall is young because Coach K deals with young people. He understands the mentality of a guy like John Wall, who is a highly touted basketball player and an all-star in his league. So being cut, a superstar being cut at that, it's no surprise that he feels a certain way. I mean, I probably would too if I was a 20-something-year-old superstar who's never been cut in my life, and I'm an all-star. So it really makes no sense to kind of put a rift between John Wall and Coach K. It's just the business of basketball, and John Wall deservedly feels the way he feels, and Coach K deservedly had the right to make a decision that he made. So I have no problem with none of that. Next, we're going to go ahead and get into the NFL a little bit, and there are a few cornerbacks who are going to be missing time. First of all, Dexter McDougal for the Jets, he's going to miss the whole season with an ACL tear. And then you got D. Milner, who's out with a high ankle sprain. He's to miss 3 or 4 weeks and could miss the first day of the regular season. And then just news coming down just now, and the controversial truth is here. I'm on top of things. Orlando Scandrick, cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, will be suspended the first 4 games of the regular season for violating the NFL substance abuse policy. Now, I've been hearing, and the word is that the Jets cornerback situation isn't really that good right now as far as training camp goes. They haven't been really looking that outstanding, and really the Cowboys can't afford any other missing pieces. I mean, you're already missing Anthony Spencer for a while, and Sean Lee, he's out for the season. So when I'm looking at this situation, cornerback is one of those positions on defense that you really can't replace. I mean, it's a hard position to replace, but if you got the guys up front who can get pressure on the quarterback, that can kind of alleviate the pressure of not having a top cornerback on the field. And when we're looking at the Dallas Cowboys and their situation, I think they're hurt more by Orlando Scandrick being suspended, because you do have Spencer who's out and Sean Lee who's out. Now you're going to have to depend on guys like Jeremy Mincy, who has 20 sacks in 7 years. Really, this is a guy who you have to depend on to get pressure up the middle. George Selvey, 10 sacks in 5 years. Now we know Henry Melton, the defensive tackle, we know he can get some pressure, but when you don't have those certified guys around you, I just think this Orlando Scandrick suspension could hurt the Dallas Cowboys a little bit more than the Jets, because the Jets do have Muhammad Wilkerson, who had 10.5 sacks last year. They do have Sheldon Richardson and Kelvin Pace, David Harris. And when you're talking about the secondary, you still have a young rookie. I mean, he's a rookie, he hasn't proved himself, but Calvin Pryor, you have DeJuan Landry, Kyle Wilson is still out there, and Demetri Patterson, who's looked awful in training camp. I gotta say, he's looked awful. He just has to step up his game, and this is just what has to happen in order for the Jets to succeed. But I think with the pressure that they're able to get on opposing quarterbacks is more stout than what the Dallas Cowboys can do. So I think they'll be okay with their injuries for right now for the short second. Just for a second, I want to take a break to say happy birthday to the great Hulk Hogan. WWE, they celebrated his birthday on Raw tonight, and at one point Ric Flair came down, and it got me to thinking, who's the greatest wrestler between the two? Now, Ric Flair, in my opinion, is the greatest wrestler of all time. He's my favorite, and so I'm kind of biased. When it comes to my top 3 favorite wrestlers of all time, it's Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and The Rock, the old Rock. But when it's just between Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, I understand that Hulk Hogan, the icon, is great. I mean, the magnitude of that is off the charts. But Ric Flair is top 5 wrestler in every category, and I can't say the same thing for Hulk Hogan. So, chime in and let me know what you think about this. I mean, do you think Hulk Hogan is the greater wrestler, or do you think Ric Flair is the greater wrestler? Do you respect the World Championship belt that Ric Flair held, or the WWE/WWF belt Hulk Hogan had more? So, just let me know, you old wrestling heads. I know you know something about it. You new guys, I know you're on something new, which is still cool. Now, before I get out of here on this shortened version of the controversial truth, I'm going to let you know that there are still 6 slots remaining for the WCF Fantasy Football League. This is the most competitive fantasy football league that you could join. I mean, all those other cupcake leagues that you've probably been in, you saying that, I've won chips here. You haven't won a chip in the WCF. You haven't competed there yet. So until you do that, you really haven't done anything. Now, there is a $100 fee, but there are $75 weekly payouts for most points. You also will have a first, second, and third place prize winners, as well as a weekly fantasy football show for the site. So if you get the most points, you get to come on the show and boast and do whatever. Get interviewed, get your limelight. Be a part of something great. OneManCave.com. This is The Controversial Truth with your boy, Enrique James, aka Notty. Till next time, hey, support yourself, support the people, and know that the truth shall always suffice. Holla.